Okay. Morning again, everybody. I sent you the sheet, but before we get to the sheet, I hope the sheets help you. They take me some time, but it does help me to organize my thoughts. But before we get to the sheet, let me just give you a little background here. These are a lot of the inyanim that we've already covered, but a shaila came up on Friday. We had a bar mitzvah on Shabbos, David Lowy, Zayin Gesund, and his son, Shlomo. His birthday, that's not just his bar mitzvah was on Shabbos, but his actual birthday was on Shabbos. He became 13 years old on Shabbos. So they they're very adamant about making Shabbos early, as many people are. And his parents came in, and they were very, very big early Shabbos makers. I'm not. And the question was asked by me, actually, that what happens here? How does this work? If you just think about the question for a second. If you make Shabbos early, and so that time, it's broad daylight outside, right? So that time is called Tosfos Shabbos. And Tosfos Shabbos is, let's call it, I don't know if you've ever thought about it this way, but it's Shabbos midrabanan. In other words, the Rabbanon said that you're allowed to make Shabbos early from Plag HaMincha, and for you it becomes Shabbos. I would imagine that if somebody was Mechalel Shabbos, but when they make Shabbos early before Shkia, so it's Shabbos Drabanan. You're being over Echil Shabbos midrabanan, which you're not allowed to do, but it's not Shabbos Deraisa. Very important yisoid to understand. It's the Rabbanon, according to the way we paskin la Halachah. So what happens over here is the family sits down, and you can make Shabbos early, but you can't make a birthday early. There's no such provision in Halacha for Tosfos birthday, although everybody likes to do that. And so yesterday's my birthday, today's my birthday, it's still my birthday, my Hebrew birthday, my English birthday. Your birthday's your birthday. Yud Gimel Shanim V'Yom Echad. So it comes out that the family sits down and they have a Shabbos Suda, they make Kiddush, etc. Shabbos Suda. And then all of a sudden it becomes dark. It becomes Shkiyas HaChamer, or Tzeis HaKachavim, whatever you like. And it comes out that the boy really, as a gadol, didn't hear Kiddush. So in such a case, he didn't hear Kiddush as a gadol. He heard Kiddush as a Kattan. And if he heard Kiddush as a Kattan, so that's just practice Kiddush, you would think. It's not a real Kiddush. And it could be that two things really. Number one is, come Shkia, he's not allowed to continue eating because he didn't hear a Kiddush as a gadol. And secondly, he has a chiyuv of Kiddush Hayom, which everybody was makabel. Kiddush Hayom, everybody did that mitzvah because the Rabbanan said you're allowed to do that early. But he actually didn't hear any Kiddush as a gadol at all, so therefore he's not allowed to continue eating, and he's a chiyuv in Kiddush Hayom. Yeah.
Question.
Already? I didn't say anything.
A gadol is he heard Kiddush. He was Yosef Kiddush the Rabbanan, but the deraisa of Kiddush he wasn't Yosef before Shkia.
So we have to look at how that works. Like, why don't you have to make Kiddush again? So we'll take a look at that. But however it works, it doesn't mean that it works for somebody who missed Kiddush, right? So if you miss Kiddush, you miss Kiddush. You have a chiyuv in Kiddush. Everyone always makes Kiddush again for their wife, whatever. So as a Kattan, he's a little bit different than a gadol. He's one step further away, it would seem. And he didn't hear Kiddush at all. So right. What does he do?
Does 13 define him as a gadol deraisa, or is that the chazaka d'Rabbanan that we say 13?
We hold whatever the lumdus is. We hold that when you're 13 years old, you're chayiv deraisa, and before that, you're not chayiv at all. It's chinuch.
Even if you have shtei,
like every chazaka, the chazaka works on it in deraisa. So therefore, the kid's allowed to lane, kid's allowed to be moitzi the tzibur. He's a gadol. We like every chazaka, the chazaka allows you to be a gadol midiraisa. We don't say, well, let's check shtei saros. We don't say, let's wait a couple of days just to make sure. We don't do that. Yud Gimel Shana V'Yom Echad, which, by the way, Yud Gimel Shana V'Yom Echad, people get confused. Doesn't mean a day after your 13th birthday. When your 13th birthday, you've completed Yud Gimel Shana V'Yom Echad, right? That's what that means. So the chazaka, as Robert correctly says, it's a chazaka because we don't check anymore to see if somebody's really a gadol. But the chazaka works, and he's a gadol l'chol inyan. However, in this case, he was a Kattan l'chol inyan. So
why is this different than Sriras Omer?
Not necessarily different than Sriras Omer. We talked about this by we talked about it by Sriras Omer, but I'll tell you one basic difference. By Sriras Omer, the question by Sriras Omer, as Reb Shmuel points out, is, and we talked about it when it was the time of Sriras Omer, the question by Sriras Omer, does my counting before the Omer mitzaref with my counting after the Omer so that I can continue to make a bracha? Because tmimim, you can't miss a day. So we argued at that point, since the poskim say you don't have to you can make a bracha after your bar mitzvah. So the pshat is that sof kol sof, there was a counting which was tmimus. Who says you need a counting of a gadol? There's a counting which was tmimus. So I counted as a Kattan. Now I'm counting as a gadol, but it's all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 49, right? So you've counted. So that's a little bit different than this, where the way I'm seeing it is, this was my question. The way I'm seeing it is that you're taking a practice kiddush, a trial run, and you're using it as the real thing, which we need to be mevarer. So
could a similar thing be with Yom Kippur as well? Because we have Tosfos Yom Kippur. So a Kattan who's makabel, like a Kattan who's bar mitzvah on Yom Kippur, if he's when is he makabel the tzom? Like according to what we do, for the Tosfos Yom Kippur, he's makabel before it's actually Yud Tishrei.
Maybe he can't. Maybe he can't be makabel it early, but of course you understand that there's for everybody, whether you make Shabbos early or not, or Yom Kippur early, there's a mitzvah of Tosfos Shabbos. So everybody, whether you make Shabbos early or you don't make Shabbos early, you should be makabel Shabbos with Mizmor Shili and Shabbos, or just say I'm makabel Shabbos at least a minute or two before Shkia, if not 18 minutes or whatever. The women are makabel Shabbos early because that's the mitzvah of Tosfos Shabbos. The question is, once you're makabel Shabbos, you're makabel Tosfos Shabbos, which is a beautiful thing. Yisarusa Delasata, it's a very holy thing. If you're not makabel Shabbos at all, you don't say kabel Shabbos, you're sleeping. You don't do anything. So automatically Shabbos comes on you when it comes Shkia, whether you want it to come or not. So this kid, let's say his birthday is on Yom Kippur, like is your birthday on Yom Kippur, Yoni? So this kid, so whether he wants to or not, come Shkia, Yom Kippur is chal on him. But it could be, who said he could be makabel? Who said that when he gets to Shemayim, he gets some kind of a mitzvah for Tosfos Yom HaKippurim? It could be there's no Indian law. Maybe he should start fasting on Shkia. I mean, again, you're getting into chinuch issues, but as we've learned before, the simple pshat in chinuch, the simple pshat, before we go into it deeper, the simple pshat in chinuch, this has nothing to do with the kid. It has to do with the father. A father has a chiyuv to be mechanech his son. Kid, how could it be? It's like, how could he's a Kattan? He's not chayav b'mitzvahs, just like a goy. I mean, not that he's like a goy, but sof kol sof, he can't be makabel mitzvahs. He's not mechuyev mitzvahs. He's not a bar mitzvah, as it's put simply.
Which leads me to another question. When the father makes Kiddush, isn't he motzi his son, the Kattan?
No, the son has no chiyuv. He's yotzei the mitzvah when he says to his son, his 12-year-old son, listen to Kiddush. What he's doing is the mitzvah of chinuch. Anoich lanar al pi darkei. He's not doing the mitzvah Kiddush. He's doing the mitzvah chinuch. because it's not possible for a Kattan to do a mitzvah. Listen, can he be an aid? He can't be an aid. He can't do anything that a gadol can do. Sof kol sof. His kinyan is not a kinyan. His edus is not edus. He's a Kattan until you're Gil. Can he be motzi the tzibur with Kriyas HaTorah? Of course not. He has to be Yud Gimel Shana V'Yom Echad. He has to complete and be bar mitzvah. There's nothing that he can do because he's not in the parsha of mitzvahs until you're bar mitzvah. That's what bar mitzvah means. So hence my question.
Rabbi Haber, yeah, we do it all the time. We when we daven Mariv early, so we say Shema later. What's the difference? Why shouldn't the Kattan have to say Kiddush later?
Because Shema later is because there's a special Xeris HaKasav of a B'shach B'chav Kumecha, that it has to be Zman Shchiva, it has to be Laila Gomer.
Exactly.
So therefore, even if you could be Makabel Shabbos early, you can't be Makabel Laila early. Doesn't become.
Right. It's the same. So it's the same thing. He's still a Kattan.
So you would say you would have paskin in this situation. That comes. Okay, so I'll tell you the difference in halacha why it's more chamor that if you say Shema, you could say Shema all day long, but if you make Kiddush Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh HaShabbos, so it's a bracha levatala. So you've got a new chomer inyan here that if he just says, okay, I'm going to be machmir and I'll make Kiddush Sheish Chacham, okay, everybody quiet, he makes his own Kiddush, lo pasha, because if he was Yotzei Kiddush somehow, so then if he was Yotzei Kiddush, then he's not allowed to make Kiddush. I want to give you not that it's the same thing, but I just want to tell you a famous Magen Avram. The Magen Avram says that when you go to shul Friday night, so in shul we say not once but twice, Vayechulu Hashemayim v'aretz v'chol tzvam, right? So Kiddush. Vayechulu Hashemayim v'aretz v'chol tzvam. And with that Kiddush, with that word, by reciting that paragraph, you're Yotzei Kiddush D'Oraisa. So there's a Magen Avram and a famous Rabbi Yaacov Haber that says, okay, now you come home. Why do I have to make Kiddush? Because the Rabbanan said, no, you should make Kiddush ala yayin. Do it correctly. So now I have a chiyuv d'Rabbanan in Kiddush ala yayin. At the D'Oraisa, I was already Makayim. On the other hand, let's say my wife, who may not have davened Kabbalah Shabbos and may not have said Vayechulu, or Shemona Esrei, Kabbalah Shabbos shouldn't have Marv, let's say, or whoever's in the house didn't daven Marv. So now she has a chiyuv d'oraisa in Kiddush. So davar manyen that you have a Kiddush, a chiyuv Kiddush d'Rabbanan, because you daven and you said Vayechulu, and your wife has a Kiddush, chiyuv Kiddush d'oraisa, because she didn't say Vayechulu unless she said Vayechulu. So how, it's the Rebbe Yaacov Haber's kasha and others, how could it be that my chiyuv d'Rabbanan, a moitzi, a chiyuv d'oraisa? We never find, there's many cases in Shas where the Gemara says, lo yapik d'Rabbanan, lo yasi d'Rabbanan umapik d'oraisa. That if I have a chiyuv d'Rabbanan in something, I can't be moitzi somebody who has a chiyuv d'oraisa. We're on two different levels, which we need to explain. So Rabbi Yaacov Haber famously said, because of this Magen Avram, famous Rabbi Yaacov Haber, that you need to downgrade in order for this whole system that we all do at home every Friday night. You're going to have to downgrade the woman's chiyuv to a d'Rabbanan also. So simple thing is let her say Vayechulu like you did. And she has a chiyuv d'Rabbanan. So Rabbi Yaacov Haber says that the Kiddush d'Oraisa, your Yotzei, just by acknowledging Shabbos. In fact, every time when you're in shul, this is very, very important, and you can do it many times, by the way. On Friday night, every time you say to somebody good Shabbos, you're acknowledging, you're not saying hi, good day, or how you doing? You're saying good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. So if you say Shabbat Shalom, you're being Makadesh the Shabbos, and you're not your Yotze, you're Makayim a mitzvah deraisa of the Kiddushtoi. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger says that the right thing to do is when you walk in the door Friday night, you say to your wife, good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, and she says Shabbat Shalom, and now she's Yotze Deraisa, she's been Makadesh Deraisa. Okay, now we're both missing the same thing. We didn't do Kiddush Al Yayin. Hey, let's get some wine. So now we're both on the same madregas. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger says the simple eitzah for this is to make sure you say good Shabbos to your wife, which I know in some circumstances is complicated. But that should be the minimal amount of communication that a husband and wife has, and daughters, if you have daughters in the house, or anybody who didn't go to shul, that you say good Shabbos, and that's Kiddush Deraisa. See, the reason, I just to dwell on this for a moment, I just want to say one more time, the reason we're makbid to say good Shabbos, why do we say good Shabbos? Hello, why do we say good Shabbos? And the answer is because by saying good Shabbos, you're Yotze Kiddush Hayom. There's something beautiful that Rav Kook, Olav Shalom, said that, you say good Shabbos, but there's another din. Rav Kook said good Shabbos, right? I mean, Rav Kook was a Yiddish speaker. You say good Shabbos, but you weren't Makayim the other Takanas Chazal of being Maktim Shalom L'chol Adam, which we learned from Boaz and Rus, that you have to be Maktim Shalom. You have to say Shalom to a person. Or the Gemara says, based on the Psukim, that even though the Shalom is the Shem Hashem, and you're allowed to say the same Hashem to greet another person, Shalom Aleichem. So Rav Kook asks, like if you say good Shabbos, instead of saying Shalom, so what happens is that you're being Mekayim the mitzvah of Kiddush HaShabbos based on Rabbi Akiva Eiger, that's what he says, but you're losing the mitzvah of Nesina Shalom. You're losing that. So Rav Kook invented, I believe, the term, I don't think anybody ever said it in history before Rav Kook, of Shabbat Shalom. So if you say Shabbat Shalom, now you were Makadesh the Shabbos, plus you were Makayim the mitzvah of greeting everyone with Shalom. So you ask a question, why didn't the Chafetz Chaim say Shabbat Shalom? Why didn't, I don't know, but maybe they said good Shabbos, Shalom Aleichem. I don't know what they said. But if you say Shabbat Shalom, not that I do, I'm just saying that's what Rav Kook says, and it's not only ingenious, but it's holy, that you're Makayim two things, you're Makayim Shabbos and you're Makayim Shalom. Yeah? Everybody with me?
I'm with you except for one point. I want to go back to the basic. Saying Vayichulu, you said before, is an acknowledgement of the Shabbat. But you also said that it's Mekadesh the Yom. In Kiddush, we say Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh Shabbat. It's clear that is Kiddush and it's Kiddush Hayom. Please explain or clarify how an acknowledgement of Shabbat is also Mekadesh the Yom. It's not clear to me.
Right. Take this day and make it special. So says the Torah. So the fact that I'm maskir the day, Midoraisa, even though you didn't say Mekadesh HaShabbos, that's why there's a chiyuv d'Rabbanan to say Mekadesh HaShabbos. There's a few inyanim of d'Rabbanan here. One is to say Mekadesh HaShabbos Mefurish. By the way, in Mishmeres on Friday night, we do say Mekadesh HaShabbos. Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh HaShabbos. But besides for that, so say Mekadesh HaShabbos, clearly say it ala yayin, stand up when you're saying it, kilu meid amaisa brachos. These are d'Rabbanan things that we should do to improve on our Kiddush HaShabbos. But let me just explain something to you, Ephraim, that Kiddush, the word Kiddush means, like Harayat Mukudeshesli, is you're separating it from the rest of the week.
You're sanctifying it.
You're sanctifying, separating. Yeah, separating. L'kadesh, to make something hektish is to separate it, right? To make it muvdalan hilacha, the lashon of the Gemara. So that's what you're doing. You're being mavdil Shabbos between every other day, and kadesh is yom HaShabbos, right? You're doing, but you're not doing it business class. You're doing it like you're doing it to be yotzei. So, but one of the chidushim of Rav Kook that I didn't know is that you could be mekadosh HaShabbos without the shame. You can be mekadosh HaShabbos 100 times, and every time you do it, you're mekayim a mitzvah. So every time you say good Shabbos, you're mekayim a mitzvah. So if you say Shabbos, good Shabbos, and I'll tell you something else that I was always makbid on because of this Rav Kook, that for a great part of my life, I lived together with non-frum Jews, very happily. And I always thought it was very important, whether it was in Buffalo, New York, or Australia, or even Muncie, when you see somebody and you say good Shabbos, and especially answers you good Shabbos, he was just Mekayim Kiddush Deraisa. So it's a very important thing to say good Shabbos to everybody on the street. And even if he wasn't, so you're talking about a guy or a woman who B'chlal wasn't Mekadosh HaShabbos, Chaval, even if they're going to go home and say Kiddush, still they're Mekadosh HaShabbos. So it's an important thing to understand what we're doing here. So
we do that with clothes as well. When we put our Shabbos clothes on,
nachon. You light candles. You have special food. Everything is Kiddush HaShabbos, but there's a din of Kiddush HaShabbos b'dibur. There's a special din of Kiddush HaShabbos b'dibur.
That means Shomei Kehona is not Nogea?
Well, yeah. Why? You mean, well, how can you be Yotzei with Kiddush?
No, yeah, for one thing.
So Taka, the Rav Shulchan Aruch says, and I think the Lubavitchers do this, that the wife and everybody's Yotzei should say the words Vayechulu with the about one who's making Kiddush. Gets on my nerves when people do this, but that's what the Rav Shulchan Aruch says to do, and that's what they do. And the idea is because it's like a moedim d'Rabbanan, that you can't be yotzei thank you with Shomei Koina. You have to say your own moedim. Same thing as you can't be moitzi somebody in Kiddush Hayom, but we paskin that you can be moitzi somebody in Kiddush Hayom. So that's a topic you'd talk to.
So then, if you say good Shabbos to somebody and they don't answer, but why aren't they yotzei the same way they yotzei Kiddush?
They are. I'm saying I said that, especially if they answer. So then they're doing it b'dibur even better. I'll tell you why. Because when you're doing Shomei Koina, they have to be kavanah to be yotzei, right? Like, where's the kavanah to be yotzei? So okay. So now let me show you. Do you have the sheets by and large? One second. Let me get it for you on the screen. Just also share screen. I'm getting good at this. Okay. So if you didn't get it by WhatsApp, you'll have it here. It says here, Magen Avram in Reish Samach Zayin. So here, Magen Avram says like this. Let me learn it through because I didn't take it's a long Magen Avram. It takes a whole page. So let me give you context here. But the Magen Avram says the following words. Uba Mordechai, that's one of the Rishonim. But Mordechai Perak Beis de Megillah, Kosav, the Mordechai writes, Demando Amar Toisvos Shabbos D'Rabbanan, which is how we paskin. If you hold the Toisvos Shabbos D'Rabbanan, says the Mordechai, Afilu Hachi, Yotzei Mishachashecha B'Kiddush, Kivin the B'Shah Shemakadesh, Yavar Acher Kach L'Chiv D'Oraisa, Ayin Shem Sheherach. You get what the Mordechai is saying? He's asking a question, how can it ever be that your Yotzei Kiddush early, that's only Midrabanan. The whole Tosfos Shabbos is Midrabanan. So how could it be that your Kiddush D'Rabbanan is being Moitzi, your Chiyuv Kiddush Midaraisa, which is going to come in an hour and a half's time? But he says as a fact, Afilu Hachi Yoitze Meshachashecha B'Kiddush Kiva. Why? So he says a svara here. Let's try to understand it. This is the Magen Avram. Why are you Yoitze? Kivin the B'Shah Shemekadesh, because you made Kiddush at 5:30 in the afternoon. And when you make Kiddush, Yavai Acher Kach L'Chiyuv D'Oraisa, you're in a parsha of Chiyuv D'Oraisa. I'm not sure I know what this means, but you're in a parsha of Chiyuv D'Oraisa. You're going to get there to the Chiyuv D'Oraisa. So now you've stretched the D'Oraisa down to the Rabbanon, and therefore you're Yotzei. That's what the Marthe says, which is an odd thing. So Freik the Magen Avram a question, but Sarachiyun. This needs some hesber. Why? The Kattan, this is the Magen Avram I found, which is the closest thing to what we were talking about in the Shiloh Lamaisa we had on Shabbos. Sarachiyun. The Kattan ain't a Moitzi Agadol. Because of Simon Kuf Pei Vav, which we actually learned together. We don't find that a Kattan can be Motzi Agadol with anything, even though that Kattan, maybe in 15 minutes, is going to be Chiyuv D'Oraisa. So why is it, he asks the question, that you can be Yotze with your D'Rabbanan de Kiddush on Friday afternoon because you're going to come to a D'Oraisa on Friday night? What's that different than a Kattan being Motzi Agadol, where he's assuming that he has some kind, there's a Chiyuv D'Rabbanan here. How come that Chiyuv D'Rabbanan is not being able to be Motzi D'Oraisa? That's the Magen Avram's kasha. Magen Avram was a big gadol. But if he wasn't, I would have said, what are you talking about? Of course, there's a big difference between a Kattan and a gadol who's making Kiddush early. Because a Kattan is a rock. There's no chiyuv at all until he's bar mitzvah. So if he has no chiyuv at all till he becomes eretz, of course he can't be Moitzi Agadol and Kriyas HaTorah or whatever it might be. Shenke, this guy, you or me, who's being Makabel Shabbos early, so I have a chiyuv to keep Shabbos already. And the Rabbanon said I could do Tos for Shabbos, so therefore I could be Yoitze with the day Kiddush on the night. So the kasha is a bit shvach. Unless you say, because he was the Magen Avram, that you have to say from this Magen Avram, you have a raya that a Kattan, even when he's a Kattan, has his own chiyuv d'Rabbanan to make Kiddush. Like I would have said, no, there's no chiyuv at all, it's just practice. So you see from the Magen Avram's kasha, otherwise no kasha. You see from the Magen Avram's kasha that no, he already has a shtickle chiyuv, so therefore I can ask the question, ask the Magen Avram. Says the Magen Avram, I can ask the question, what's the difference in a Kattan who's going to become a gadol or a gadol that's going to become a Shabbos to a gadol in an hour's time? Why does the Rabbanan work for later when my chiyuv is a deraisa? It's a little bit similar to what I asked in our case, but it's not quite the same thing. Because here, the kid's being Moitzi himself. Yeah, a little bit different.
Does Magen Avram answer?
No. However, the Chayyim answers. In Klalvav Simon Gimel says the Chayyim. This is very, very. What's the word? Like it's not at all clear. It's like written in code. It says Chayyim brings the Magen Avram's kasha, and he says, "Eino dome klal." What do you? Kiven she'eino mevarach ba'atzmai, va'akon eino mechuyev, v'lachein eino moitzi oisei. Aval hacha kiven shu ba'atzmai mevarech, afal pi she'adayin lo yagia zman chiyuv deraisa yotze bo. Anybody want to try to explain what he said? Go ahead, Ephraim, give it a shot.
He seems to be saying exactly what you said before. Unless I'm misreading it.
Translate.
Saying that the Kattan is a totally different case, because while he was a Kattan Erev Shabbos, an hour before Shabbos came in, he's a rock, like you said. That's what he's saying. It's totally different. But the Gadol he has the chiyuv.
But he doesn't
And
have
he was-
Shabbos Deraisa on him.
He says,
Why can't you-
"Af al pi she'adayin lo higia zman chiyuv d'oraita yotze bo."
Why?
He's yotze.
Why?
You make a bracha
Meaning,
before you
like
do
for me,
something.
I'm not a gadol, and for him, it's not Shabbos. So what's the difference? What do you say, Philip?
You make a bracha before you do something. Like you make a bracha on an apple to eat it. You make it before you eat the apple. So you got a chiyuv deraisa of Shabbos coming. So you can make the Kiddush before. Overly asyosim.
No, but you can't make it when you're not mechuyev. You have to have an apple. You know. You have to
Yeah.
have-
Haber, can I take?
The
can I
time is
take a
coming.
stab?
It's going to come. It will come. There's no shine about that. It's going to come.
Haber, can I take a stab at
Maybe
it?
it's subjective.
Please
Maybe it's
do.
purely subjective. Although it's Tosfos Shabbos, the fact that the Gadol was Mekabel Shabbos and he was Mekadesh the Shabbos, for him, it's Shabbos in every way.
See, but that's not what he's saying. What he's saying, who wanted to take, who was, I couldn't see that was, who,
I wanted
Is that
to,
right?
can I try and say something?
yeah, Pinchas was that, I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me that the decisive distinction that he's mentioning is that who is making the bracha? And it sounds like he's saying that a gadol can be motzi another gadol because of arvus, but this child, he's a nothing. So there's no arvus. There's no arvus there. I mean, he doesn't mention arvus, but he seems to be making. He attributes great weight to the fact that it's not just that the child is making a bracha on his own; it's that the child is trying to be yotzei a bracha from a gadol, but the child is still a child.
So let me put it in different words and tell me this is what you mean.
Can I add something also that it's when the Kattan makes the bracha for himself, there's a certain similarity to Sfiras HaOmer that he's doing accounting. Just listening to the counting in shul wouldn't work for him, for somebody else's bracha, somebody else's counting. But because he did the counting, he can continue when he's bar mitzvah. In this case, he makes the bracha.
Right. So I'm not sure about that. I have to think about that for a second, but let's say this. I think what Pinchas is saying is something a little simpler than what you're saying, Yisachar. What Pinchas is saying is that, like, the difference is probably what we're all saying, is that the gadol, okay, it's not Shabbos, but he's a bar chiyuva. He already has to keep Shabbos. Whether it's now or whether it's in a half hour, an hour, he's got to keep Shabbos. He's already a Jew that has to keep Shabbos. Like, like if you want to say you're a Shomer Shabbos, which we all are, you don't have to be on Shabbos to say you're a Shomer Shabbos. I'm Shomer Shabbos all week, meaning I'm a Chuyev in Shabbos and I'm a Shomer Shabbos. The Kattan, he can't be. He has nothing to do with Shabbos. So therefore, the Gadol's Kiddush can work for later because in other words, the key words here is you have to be a bar chiyuva. You have to be a bar chiyuva, and he's not. The Kattan is not a bar chiyuva. Whereas it's true, the Gadol's also not a bar chiyuva in terms of Shabbos. It's not a bar chiyuva deraisa, but he's a bar chiyuva in Shabbos. The whole parsha of Shabbos. Stood Har Sinai has to keep Shabbos already.
So
right?
the Magen Avram's Havamina seems to be that on some level the Kattan has to do it. So he's in the same parsha as a gadol. And the teretz is, the Chayodim's teretz is basically it's not the same level. So even though you say on some, maybe in some level he has a chiyuv, that a Kattan is mechuyev somehow in the Darabanan. Even if you say that, but it's still not the same level as chiyuv as a gadol is in the Darabanan, and therefore there's a chiluk.
Can you say that again clearly so I can understand that a
Okay,
gadol
Havamina is an equivalent.
A gadol who's making Kiddush early is what?
He's a bar chiyuv derabanan. He's a bar chayuva on the level of the Rabbanan. The Kattan, according to the Havamina, could be compared to a bar chayuva because there's some level of chiyuv for him, whatever it is. Comes the Chayei Adam, it says, but even if you say that the Kattan has some level of obligation, it still doesn't rise to the level of the obligation of a gadol, and therefore he can't be Muslim.
Okay. I'm saying more than that. He's not a bar chiyuva altogether. But it
But
comes
the
out.
Havamina is that there is some, they're in the same league.
Yeah, but it comes out that the Magen Avram holds from his kasha that it's the same thing in the Chayei Adam. So it could be that they're arguing the Magen Avram and Chayei Adam, machlokes achronim, whether a Kattan has any chiyuv at all.
Mhm.
So let me bring you over to Rashi in Brachos. This is, by the way, a famous Rashi. So let me tell you the case here. I took everybody off my screen, and I don't know how to put you back on. I'm just saying. Okay, I don't know. There's a din midaraisa that in order to be chayiv deraisa in benching, you have to eat enough that you're a soveya. Why is that the din deraisa? Because it says before in the Torah, v'yachalta v'savata uveirachta. So when do you have a chiyuv midaraisa to bench? If I'm actually full from my achila. By the way, like if you want to make sure that your benching is Makayim Achiv Deraisa, which the Rosh says you should do, you should try to make it a benching Deraisa. So you're Oichel Kadei Svia. Eat enough that you're full. V'achalta, v'savata, and then uveirachta. However, the Gemara comes along and says in Brachos Memches they said, I want you to know that the Rabbanon said Svia is true, that's deraisa, but it's also not a very clear geder what's called Svia, what's not called Svia. So we're telling you that once you ate a kazayis of lechem, it's a small thing. Once you eat a kazayis of lechem, you're already chayiv to bench. So it comes out, says the Gemara, that if you ate kedei svia, you have a chayiv deraisa to bench. If you ate a kazayis, which nobody's getting full up with a kazayis, so now you have a chiyuv drabanan to bench. Either way, you got a bench, but the chiyuv deraisa is only if you're kedei svia. Yes. I got just a halacha. In the Rush it says right here in the Gemara Memches that, for instance, that there's no svia. He learns from a different Gemara, but there's no svia unless you drink something too. So there's a chumrah to not just eat, but in order to be mekayim svia, because he says the food is not masakel. If you don't drink something, you don't have svia, so your chiyuv to bench is midrabanan. So very clearly, to put it very succinctly, when I eat a whole meal svia, I have a chiyuv deraisa to bench. The Chacham extended it to somebody who just eats a kazayis of bread, one piece of bread, half a piece of bread. That's the din. So Rashi explains in the Gemara, Ad sheyochel kazayis dagan. So Zok Rashi, umichiyachal kazayis dagan miyamapik. Nevertheless, when I ate only a kazayis, I could be moitzi everybody. Let's say you want to be mechabed somebody to bench. Now, in the olden days, benching, even today in some places by the Sfardim, benching means that you're benching the whole thing out loud and everybody's yotzu with you, b'roivam hadras melech. It's not our minhag because our concentration level is about 10 seconds long. But be'etzem, that's the, I said a bracha dur a chuppah a couple of days ago. So I said the bracha achruta. So I pointed out to the Chazon Akala very quickly. I said, this is a long bracha. You have to concentrate the whole way through. Like it's like everybody has to, it's like Yotzer Adam is Yotzer Adam. So like we're not might see people with the whole benching. We just do a token act of Rabbi Sai Nevarech. That's what we do. But Rashi says here that once I eat a kazayis, which makes me only chayiv midrabanan, I am now entitled to be motzi everybody at the table with birchas hamazon, rabosayin varech, and say the whole thing out loud, even if they have a chiyuv daraisa to bench. So we see a case. I'm bringing you this Rashi to show you that you see a case where l'chayr is somebody who has a chiyuv darabanan can be motzi somebody who has a chiyuv daraisa before Gemara. So Rashi says, let's read the Rashi. Falgav the kazayis dagan shiura darabanan who. If you only eat a kazayis, you only have a chiyuv darabanan. As the Gemara says before in brachas daf chav, mihu nevertheless kiven the mechuyev midrabanan mechuyev b'davar karinim bay. A chiyuv darabanan is also called a mechuyev. U'moitzi rabbi midei chayvasan. So once I have a chiyuv darabanan, I'm already, as Pinchas, as you said, arvis, I'm already there. I already have a chiyuv darabanan. And once I have a chiyuv darabanan, I could be motzi people that have a chiyuv daraisa also. So everything I said before about saying good Shabbos, according to this Rashi, is not true. Although it is true. It's brought in Halachah. The Magen Avraham brings that. So, but according to this Rashi, he brings a raya from a Gemara. Rashi, it's like a Lamdash Rashi. He brings a raya from the Gemara that a Durabanan can be Maitzi a Deraisa. I, who only ate a Kazayas, we're all grown-ups here. I, who only ate a Kazayas, can be Maitzi somebody who ate Kedei Sfia. So Rashi, uncharacteristically, I would say, asks a kasha on himself. V'im Toimar, sounds like a Tosfos, right? But it's a Rashi. V'im Toimar, fragt Rashi, why is it that we don't say, this is a similar question to the Magen Avram's question in Rashi, why don't we say that a Kattan she'egia lechinuch can be moitzi a gadol with, let's say, Kiddush? Nobody says you can do that. So says Rashi, listen to these beautiful words. Hahu, that kid, afilo midrabanan loy mechayev. He's not even mechayev derabanan. Dialel da'avuahu derami lechanuche, because it's only the father as a chiyuv to be mechanech the kid. So when you can't ask a kasha, says Rashi. Rashi's telling us right here, you can't ask us the Magen Avram's kasha. Before Rashi. How can you ask the Magen Avram's kasha? By the case of Tosfos Shabbos, and I'm making Kiddush early, so I'm a mechuyev b'davar. Masha'en came by the case of, no, I'm a mechuyev b'davar, just want my chiyuvs d'Rabbanan. So Rashi says, I'm okay, listen carefully, I'm okay with a d'Rabbanan being moitzi a d'Oraisa, but I'm not okay with a kid who has no chiyuv at all, not being moitzi anybody. And then Rashi, interestingly, and I think we'll end with this because I'm over time, as usual. Then the Rashi brings the Bahag. That's the Baal Halachas Gedolos, one generation earlier than Rashi. And he says, I want you to know that the Bahag Pasak, the Bahag says, for full transparency, that Daf Gedachlu Inu Kazayis, so he debates the Kavase. He says, actually, no. He says, the Bahag says, I disagree with the whole thing. A kid can't be motzi somebody. Not a kid, somebody who ate a kazayas can't be motzi somebody who ate kedei svia. So Ida Gemara says you can. So that's talking about I ate a kazayas and you ate a kazayas. But if I ate a kazayas and you ate kedei svia, you can't. So the Bahag argues with Rashi. Rashi brings him, and he says Bahag pasak dafke da'achlo inu kazayas. It's talking about where the other guy also ate a kazayas. Oy kebetza. The Kavos say, so we're on the same madrega, yes? Aval achlu v'saveyu, but if you ate and you had svia, loy mapik for sure, I who only ate a kazayis cannot be yoitzi you. Says Rashi, there should be a comma there. V'i efsher lahamida, what the Bahag says does not work in the Gemara. That's not pshat in the Gemara. Efsher lahamida means it can't be the pshat in the Gemara. me get everybody back on screen.
But the Magen Avram saw this Rashi.
I would have to believe so, yeah. The Magen Avram saw the Rashi, but I'll tell you why. Let me tell you something quickly. By the way, we whether we're talking about Sfiras Omer, or we're talking about Shechianu, we keep coming back to this Indian, and the reason why I keep coming back to it is not because like I have some kind of an obsession with the Kattan doing mitzvahs, because I believe it's very yesodistic in what's called being mechuyev in something, what's not called mechuyev in something. It's very fundamental. We talked about it by Shechianu. We talked about it a number of places, but you see, it could be the Magen Avram Ephraim holds. It could be Ephraim the Magen Avram holds that there is, like Rashi saying, that he's not mechuyev, but maybe the Magen Avram holds that he is mechuyev. What you see from this Magen Avram, like I said at the beginning, is maybe he says we don't paskin like Rashi, and that a kid does have some kind of a chiyuv. I got to be honest with you, I can't wrap my brain around it. What's the chiyuv? Bishlam, you say it's a chiyuv on the father, like Rashi says. Okay, that's savir. But to say that the kid has his own chiyuv, so therefore he's a mechuyev b'davar, and therefore I'm asking you a question: why doesn't he have to? Why can't he be moitzi somebody in Kiddush? Is a whole different idea. But so, like, before we finish this, which will be never or next week, let me say this, because we learned a lot here. Let's go back to my case for a minute. Just want to give you something how to think about this halachically. The kid, I'll tell you what I told him to do. The kid made Shabbos early. According to Rashi, he was not mechuyev at all. According to the Magen Avram, he seems to have some kind of a chiyuv. If he has no chiyuv at all, of course he has to make Kiddush again. Why not? Let's say he was Magayer in the middle of the Shabbos Tish. Of course you have to make Kiddush again. According to the Magen Avram, it seems like he does have some kind of a chiyuv, which we haven't clearly explained yet. So we have a machlokes, and the Magen Avram has Rishonim that say like that also, which I will show you. But you have a machlokes Rishonim. Again, I don't know the svar. I didn't know it 3 weeks ago. I don't know now. But what I said, my suggestion is very simple. When it comes shkia, watch your watch. You'll be in the middle of the meal. So the bar mitzvah boy should get up and say, "Good Shabbos." Because by saying "Good Shabbos," he's mekadosh hayoim midiraisa. So on a dirabanan, we could say Savik dirabanan l'kula, and he doesn't have to be mekadosh al yayin. Or it could be, you could even say the kiddush al yayin somehow worked for him because there's yayin at the suda. But the real problem is, was he yotzei kiddush at all? So I say, go back to basics. Say Good Shabbos. You want to be more from, say the whole parsha vayechulu. And that's what they did. Kachasu.
Was he yotzei the bechas motzi?
Yeah, because it's a very important question. It's a very good question. But don't forget, Birchas Sanhedrin is D'Rabbanan.
I thought on the machlokes Rishonim.
Making a bracha again is a bracha l'vatala. So let's say that we're not making any bracha l'vatala or suffix brachas l'haka, but there's no harm in saying vayechulu. There's no harm in saying Good Shabbos. So that was my on the spot psak that I wanted to share with you. And next time I'm at a wedding or something, I'll ask other Rabbanim whether they agree with me or not. But in time, that was I think the lumdus is good based on the Magen Avram and Rashi. Okay. Yeah.
As far as for the Rishonim that holds that there's some sort of chiyuv, could be that das is not something binary; it's gradual. So if there's some mashu of das already, there's a tzad to say that that's that corresponds to a certain level of chiyuv.
You're being philosophical, but it's like you can't be mitzi other people. You can't be mitzi yourself. So
yeah, but could be mitzi another Kattan.
It's like Robert. What do you want to say before? Robert, did you want to say something? No, okay. All right. I'm going to go because I have a meeting at 10:30. I wish you all
Be
bracha
well.
v'atzlacha and a good Ben Shvach.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kaya.
Thank you.
Rabbi.